Hi everybody and welcome to DC Fine Art. Today we are working with the water-soluble graphite. Now I have decided to do for this one, it is just a 5x7 and it is actually on my, here we go again, the Hahnemuhle watercolor paper. It's a tan kind of paper and it came in like a square, like 8x8 sheet. And I ended up just measuring out a 5x7 picture so that way I can do this little angel here. It's like a hope angel or something. He was really cute, and I know it's during the holidays, and I was like, you know what, I just need a little hope angel. So I decided to do him. And it's like a little statue. But it was definitely just a simple little 5x7 picture. And I just kind of wanted to work with something that's a little bit more quicker. And water-soluble graphite is very quick. Now, the pencils that I use to do this are the Derwent sketching. It's the light wash. And they have like it's actually a light wash, a medium wash, and a dark wash is what they have on the Derwent. And then the colors that I decided to use whenever it comes toward the end is going to be some out of the graphitint, but I wanted to use more of like a russet kind of color or a chestnut or maybe even a cool brown. Just kind of stick with those colors to kind of show a little bit of a contrast between colors. So I was just playing around with it. I went ahead and sketched him all out, and basically I am drawing in some of the shadows with the darker water-soluble graphite, and then I even use some of the medium, maybe graphite, just to kind of get those in-between stages. Now I do leave some of the paper showing, and then if I'm needing to, I use and kind of make a little bit of a shade, like a light color. Then I'll use the light wash of the graphite to kind of go around it, but then whenever I blend and I use my little water brush, I'll kind of blend some of that color out into the paper to make a lighter color, a little bit lighter than the lighter, I guess, wash. So here I'm just kind of putting in his little eye, just looking at my reference photo, putting in the darks where they need to go. I did have to adjust his mouth a little bit, but he was like a little statue, so it wasn't like extremely proportional on the statue, so it's just something that was just fun. And so there I'm kind of blending it out a little bit. Can you see that, where I'm just kind of blending it out with my water brush? I am using a fine tip water brush, so it isn't like really big, and that way I can get into some of the details with that little bitty sharp point that it has. Now I'm creating some shadow just by bringing some of that color down into his face. And some of the stuff I may have to go back out and readjust. And that's just me just kind of shadowing it out by bringing some of that color out. Now here I'm using one of my Faber-Castell erasers, like my pencil eraser. And that's where I can go back in, and if I want to adjust something or kind of take something out, I'll go ahead and use that pencil eraser and just get into some of the details where maybe I needed to adjust something, and then I would be able to go back over it or just leave it the way it is. So here I'm adding in some of my darks, but then kind of coming out of the darkest areas with a little bit lighter of a graphite. Now this water-soluble graphite is a very quick medium. Like, it didn't take me very long to do him. It was just finding time between my schedule and doing the powerful packs on being able to get him done. But basically, I would say the total hours that I spent in this, just doing this one, would probably be maybe a total of maybe like 2 or 3 hours. I mean, it really didn't take very long at all. It was just something that was simple. I didn't have to go into too much, detail. There was some in his wings and that I really did do, but for the most part, graphite is a very quick medium. It's kind of the same as like if you were to use like charcoal, is a very quick medium also. So there I'm kind of taking some of the shadows down around his nose. kind of shadowing his hand a little bit because I wanted it a little bit darker. I started to do some of his legs here, and I know I got out of frame, but I went ahead and adjusted that. I didn't really do too much. And everything I'm just basing off the reference photo. And the reference photo I got from Pixabay, so that is on Pixabay, and anybody can go on there and be able to look it up. I think, let's see here, I just typed in like Christmas or Christmas Angel and was able to find him. Now here I'm out of the lines there a little bit, but I'm just working on some shadowing. There we go. Moved it back into frame. Now here I'm in my studio, so I did switch up spots on where I was at to where I finished it. Creating all his little wings, because whenever I first did my sketch and my layout, I didn't actually draw in each and every individual feather or anything like that. I may have drawn like a couple little areas maybe on the edges where the little wings would go, or the little feathers for his little wings, but I did all my drawing of the wings and feathers just right here. And I do that a lot of times in a lot of my drawings. Like I won't draw in every single little thing until I go back over it and I just fill it in. Fill it in or draw it in myself while I'm using the medium that I choose. Putting in a lot of darks around the wings so that way it kind of breaks them up. And then also adding in some darker, or the dark water-soluble graphite around where his face is, because it is kind of in a shadow back there. Now, making sure you just don't blend in a circle or anything like that when you're doing this. When you're using your water brush, you want to go over it very, very carefully. You're kind of wanting to go in the same direction as if you were to draw it. And it would be the same thing as like if you're drawing the feathers, each individual feather, you want to do that with your water brush and just go over it in the same way that you would as if you were drawing it. If you're wanting to add some more shadow or bring that shadow out, then you can take that water brush, put it in the darker area, and kind of swipe it down just a little bit if you're needing to spread that shadow out a little further. But for the most part, just don't go in circles, otherwise you're going to have a blobby mess, or at least have a lot of run and smudging. So you just want to follow the feathers with your water brush as though you were drawing them in with a pencil. So here I am after I kind of draw it out with my light water-soluble pencil, and then after I draw it out, each individual wing and the direction that it would be going just by looking at my reference photo, then I'll go in with my darker graphite pencil and then put in some of the shadows around it. Now here I'm doing the same thing like I did before. I'm just kind of drawing them in with my water brush. So I'm not adding a whole bunch of water to it because I just don't want it to start dripping down the paper or anything. So it's wet, but I tend to draw it out where I have the lines, and if I'm needing to bring it in or bring some color in or maybe a wash in, then after I saturate it, I can kind of go in and kind of give a little bit of a wash over the top of it if I need to. And that way it won't just completely darken it out, because I do want some light areas. Now here I'm going to start on these little, I guess it's like these little candles or little jars that are all the way around him. I decided to go ahead and use some color in it, and I wanted to stick with the same kind of colors. So the one that I used is out of the graphitint set of graphitint, and I used the russet, and then I also ended up using maybe some of the chestnut and the cool brown, which is more of a darker brown, if I'm wanting to add some shadows in it. And then here I'm using just my regular water-soluble graphite pencil for some of the darker areas. And it's just something that's just unique, or just, you know, like these little jars or these little textures, just some different stuff, just adding them in there. Kind of like a filler, you know, just having some sort of little objects in there. There is no real rhyme or reason to it, just to have him right around it. And they did have something like that on the reference photo. It's just I didn't follow the reference photo to a T, but I did do some of the things that was in it, like the little jars and these little round balls. I think these little round balls here were basically almost like where you set a candle inside of like a decorative, like some people have like flowers or leaves that kind of go around a candle for decoration. And these here are just like these little round balls that are like, I don't know, maybe like kind of like little Christmas bulbs or something, but they were like dark gray and it had a little bit of a brown center to it where it reflected the light. So I just kind of added them in there. It's just something unique, and just to add some sort of objects is basically all I wanted to do. So no real rhyme or reason except for just kind of making some objects. Plus that it also helps to have like a filler. So those are kind of like a filler. And in this, I'm just using my russet color, and then using the dark and the light of the water-soluble graphite pencil. Kind of putting the little circle in there where I want to leave some of that for like a reflection, and putting some brown in there. Using my water brush, you can either go, and whenever you're using it and you got these lighter colors in there, like in these little balls, so you want to make sure to either make sure you start off with a clean brush. You can either start wetting the brown and just kind of like the lighter brown and just kind of going up and making a wash out of it in that area, then go in and do your dark around it. Or you could do your dark around it first, then just kind of clean your brush off and then go in with a clean brush to the brown. That way you're not completely dirtying out and wiping out that lighter brown in there. Now I need to make these that are kind of going up and around the candle. Creating a little bit of a shadow, like a darker area. And now I'm going to the second little jar, or little illuminated candle. Using the darker brown. This isn't really a darker brown, but it's called a cool brown. For the rim right around the edge. And then still using my graphite, regular dark or light graphite pencils toward the bottom. Then I'm going to go ahead and do this, and then I'm going to do some adjusting on here because that just didn't look right, and so I just did some erasing and kind of did an adjustment to it. Just adding some different colors in there, and that's where I changed up. I didn't do this one, you know, to the reference photo, because the reference photo had like little beads and little something on the center of the cup, and I just didn't do it. I just kind of did my own little design for the cup or candle, and then lighten it up. Now this one here is more of like a glass, and still it's not exactly to the reference photo, because in the reference photo it was an actual glass, like, but I didn't want to use those colors like a glass. So I still used my tans, or at least my browns, lighter browns, darker browns, and then added some of my regular pencil, soluble pencil. And here I'm just using my light wash just to go over it, going over it lightly, so that way I'm not making, you know, harsh strokes that I can't just blend out. So very smoothly. I go over that, and then I'm using an actual bigger brush because I'm able to make more of a wash look to it and smooth it out instead of using, and I could put a little bit more water on the paper doing this. But yeah, if you're new to my channel, definitely click the like and subscribe. I do have a video each week where we just kind of do different mediums, and hitting the like and subscribe definitely helps this channel out. And yeah, I would love to have you guys on here, so I definitely do different mediums. Also, check out the description below. There I have my Fine Art America that I have listed with some of my artwork that's on there for prints. And then also my website for DC Fine Art on my website is also linked below, where I carry my originals. And yeah, there is my finished painting. I just went ahead and put it in a matting, just a cheap matting that I got from like Hobby Lobby or whatever it is, and just went ahead and put it in there so that way you guys can see what a 5x7, how nicely that looks in a little frame. And yeah, that completes my little graphite drawing. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. Like I said, click the like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next week. Bye, you guys.